All right, welcome everyone to the Growing Opportunities in Canadian Agriculture webinar series, where we have the opportunity to chat with a diverse group of individuals from the agriculture sector. Today, we have Nick Halverson from Growcer joining us. Based in the agriculture sphere in Ottawa, Growcer is known by many for their innovative solutions to barriers in food production in different environmental conditions. So we'll start off with a little introduction from you, Nick. You could talk about yourself and your company and what you're all about. And throughout the webinar, if anyone has any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll make sure to get to them.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Megan, and thanks everyone for joining. So yeah, like Megan said, my name's Nick. I work here at Growcer. I'm the business development manager, so I work on the sales team, and I also do a lot with the marketing team as well. I'm a little bit of my background. So I actually started off at the University of Guelph. I did some work in forestry. I actually did some vegetation management work out west as well. And then I'm originally from Ottawa, but after spending a few years working and going to school in and around Guelph, moved back here and actually started working for like a sustainability tech company. And that's kind of what got my career started in sales. So I guess a bit of a pivot from agriculture and my background at Guelph, but then with my experience in sales and the company here who had reached out to me through some connections as they were starting to grow, I kind of made my way back into the agriculture industry, albeit in a little bit of a different way than where I had worked in it before, but it's kind of come full circle in terms of my schooling, my post-secondary experience, and some of my past work experience as well. So I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And thank you for joining us. We're really excited about it. And can you tell us about how Growcer started?
Definitely. So it was in 2015 or 2016, the co-founders, Corey and Alita, they actually started it while they were still students at the University of Ottawa, and they did it through the Enactus program. And I can maybe talk a little bit more about what I know of Enactus at least later, but Enactus allows students to get started on their, I call it entrepreneurial journeys, but from, building social enterprises. So I guess socially, businesses with meeting social goals and social needs. That's sort of the emphasis on it. So out of that experience, where it's sort of like a think tank of different like-minded students who have goals to start up their own companies, either upon graduation or while they're still in school, like Corey and Alita here at Growcer did. I believe what kind of really set them off was they actually took a trip up to Nunavut as they were looking for some way to solve like housing issues, and they were looking at modular housing. And they ended up realizing that there was a much greater need to solve food insecurity issues, particularly in northern regions. And they tried to use that concept of, okay, well, what's a way that we can have something that's modular and still be able to feed people, albeit in a really tough climate to grow food in? And that's where the idea behind Growcer came from. So they partnered with some existing technology, I believe, and they kind of came up with their own design of this farm. And that's kind of what led to the creation of what is Growcer Modular Food Solutions today. So very short background, I guess, about what Growcer does too is we sell the term would be coined container farms. So they are modular growing systems. Think of what actually used to be a shipping container. Now we don't anymore, but you have a hydroponic setup that's fully insulated and climate controlled that will enable you to be able to grow different types of produce in any climate at any time of year, no matter where you are. And that's really the whole idea behind us. We provide a lot of training for it as well. And it's all really to kind of solve, going back to, full circle to the story of what they were trying to do is solve food insecurity and allow the further localization of food production.
Yeah, that's an amazing story and definitely inspiring. And it's great how they had this idea and brought it to life using ag tech and technology in general. And that leads to my next question. So, what would you recommend to students who have these big ideas and they don't know exactly how to bring them to life?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and maybe one that I wish I knew a little bit more about in my days at school. I might not have had the same, aspirations to start a business than Corey and Alita did, but I can definitely draw my experience speaking to those types of people and from what I've learned working with people like Corey and Alita over the years. Going back to Enactus, I think looking for programs like that would be number one, where there's actually, resources and people and mentors around you to be able to say, okay, well, what's your idea? Let's think through your idea. Let's think about ways that we can, you know, build upon that, figure out who it's for, what's your value proposition going to be. So, Enactus is a good one, and it's not just a University of Ottawa thing, I don't believe. This is something that's across Canada at different universities, all centered around socially responsible businesses. Uh, Another one would be like here in Ottawa, for example, I can speak at least locally. We have something called Invest Ottawa, and they were also a big part about what Growcer, the success that Growcer's had so far. And we wouldn't have been able to be there without it. So what Invest Ottawa is it's a building where they operate out of, but it's an incubator. So it's a business incubator and accelerator. So they will take entrepreneurs, give them a space to work, and also act as a bit of a connecting network for them to speak to and learn from mentors. You can have sort of an hour session that's, I don't know how much if it's paid for or not, but either way, there's definitely free resources too that you can meet with a mentor and kind of like I said earlier, pitch your business idea and kind of get someone else's thoughts who's maybe already gone through it or has experience helping other entrepreneurs on their journey. So every single business, like how you asked that question, Megan, it does start with, just an idea. And then you kind of have to put that idea on paper. And then you have to figure out, okay, well, who's this idea going to be best for? And figure out who your customers are going to be. And, starting a business and running a business is definitely no easy task. And I think, no one can do it alone. So don't ever be afraid to reach out to those types of programs like Enactus, try to find some sort of mentor or ideally mentors, plural, to help you. Seek out those who have experience doing it before you, and don't be afraid to be curious. I would say would be your best. Like you're no matter what, none of the great companies that we see today were done by just one person. They're constantly being done by teams of people and people who are curious and not afraid to ask questions and put themselves out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually just wrote down Enactus on my piece of paper because that's definitely a great resource. And it's awesome that it's through University of Ottawa. This webinar is mainly focused towards students. So I'm sure other students or other schools across Canada have other resources like that, or, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's awesome.
Search student business incubator near me or something on Google, and I'm sure you'll find some sort of resource. And maybe it's an online resource that'll be able to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And what kind of roles does Grocer employ? Do you have non-agriculture students who transitioned into your agriculture-based business, or?
Yeah. I mean, so I guess for me, it's a little different because I actually did study like at University of Guelph. Technically, my program, I studied bioresource management. It was under the OAC, so it was an ag program at Guelph. So I was an ag student. Uh, that being said, even if I wasn't, I think I would still, I mean, maybe wouldn't have the same experience in this role, but looking around at like our different departments, so we have sales and marketing. I think I'm the only one with a specifically like ag education or ag background at all. Maybe there's one other person who has that background. So there's a whole kind of department and a very important one to every company that does not necessarily need either or. We have our R&D team, of course, that's like plant science, so they'll be very ag related as well. But like the non-ag students started Grocer, right? So I think that says a lot about, there's lots of knowledge that you can take from other industries, like especially when it comes to business, that then you apply to food production that is only going to contribute to different perspectives and different experiences and different skill sets that are going to help. Like, yeah, from a science perspective, growing crops, you need that kind of level of knowledge, but that doesn't mean that there's not so many other different ways that a non-ag student can really contribute to an agriculture business.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of already answered my next question, but just what advice do you have for students that are trying to enter the agriculture industry that just really don't know where to go, or, what's out there?
Yeah, it is a really good question. I think it comes back a little bit to like the question about the big ideas. Putting yourself out there. I know the job application process can be daunting and time consuming, but the more people you connect to, what's that saying? It's super cliche. It's like your network is your net worth. Like meeting people is very important, and it's the open doors. Like that's ultimately how I got here with Grocer, because I had a connection through work that I met, and they were friends with someone else, and through the grapevine, I got introduced, and I would have never, if I didn't have that, kind of experience either going outside of the egg industry and then coming back into it. Uh, for, job, I mean, going to different specific job fairs too. I know that that could be something that seems like really obvious, but again, like that's where you meet people and you get face-to-face time, which increasingly in the world we live in is super valuable to, meet someone and shake their hand if you're able to, and you're in the area. And, just showing up and being there goes a long way. Uh, if any of you are not on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great place to connect with people who are hiring. You can make, your job searches very specific. Uh, you'll even be able to put on like looking for work, and it can give you, basically it gives recruiters the ability to see if you're open to work or not, and then connect with you. So like using an online tool like LinkedIn can be a great way to do it. You can put in your experience. It's essentially like posting your resume with your picture and all your experience online in one place for recruiters and other people who are hiring, like hiring managers, to be able to see you. So I would definitely recommend, if you're not on LinkedIn, it won't take a whole lot of time, make an account and get on there, because that can open a lot of doors. I mean, going back to my own experience, that's kind of how I'm here at Growcer, and I've been here for 4.5 years, and it's been an amazing experience. So highly recommend that. Uh, through those programs, you're like having a big idea like the Enactus, like the network that you'll have of those like-minded people, that again will lead to further connections down the road. So I feel like I'm being a bit of a broken record here, but there's a theme of like, meet people and go out there and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And that will absolutely unlock many doors for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And I just saw we have a question and answer. I'm not sure if you can see that on your side in the Q&A tab.
Yeah. So the question is, do any of your systems ever add CO2 into the plant growing enclosure to enhance the plant growth? It's a good question. So in some systems they do. For a period of time we did, but we kind of found, unless, and so let me take a step back. The caveat is I'm in business development. I do have a slight egg background, but I am by no means a plant scientist. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. We did use CO2 for a certain period of time. We found that for like a mixed crop system, it didn't have as much effect, and the ROI on using it wasn't as measurable as we would have liked. This is my understanding of the situation, so we don't necessarily recommend it anymore. Although for certain crops and certain environments, like enclosed environments, it will make an impact. It's just not something that we found make a huge impact in terms of the people who we work with and how we operate our farms. But
Awesome.
very, very good question.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. And does anyone else have any questions that you want to write in the chat? That was all very informative. That was awesome. I'll give you the chance now. All right, if we don't have any more questions, did you have anything else you want to add? I'm going to think of some questions too.
Yeah, I'm just going back over some of the things that we talked about. Definitely look into like I said, for an Actus. I think the big takeaway would be, yeah, get on LinkedIn if you're not. Go out there and don't be afraid to meet people. I think we covered
Yeah, just networking in general. And yeah,
yeah.
I think, that's how I got my position here. I didn't know much about agriculture before, and I've been with CARC for almost 3 years now. And, every single day I'm learning about different job opportunities that are actually in the industry. And I think I think it's really interesting that the founders of Growcer weren't in agriculture, and, they just took other aspects from technology and everything, and formed this amazing company. So I think that's really, really interesting. And that's why we're here today. And that's what we're trying to learn. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a good point to highlight as well, because with business in general, like business is really just about people and which kind of people who are your customers, or which kind of people, more importantly, bring in your team. And you talk to a lot of business owners these days too, and they have a hard time finding good people. So I think for all the people listening on this call, if you're out there looking for a new opportunity, like you have that to your advantage. And if you could kind of raise your hand and show that you're going to be there and show up and work hard, use that to your advantage. As far as, yeah, with Corey and Alita not having ag experience, again, like shows people who come from a business and I think like accounting background, like from a post-secondary standpoint. And again, you just kind of open up those opportunities where, yes, agriculture and the science of agriculture is only one part of our business, but in terms of working for and running a business, there's so many other opportunities and necessary positions to fill. Like I think I went over ours here, right? Marketing, sales, business development. We have our finance department, we have our research and development department, we have our product and engineering department. So all those things are very different paths to get there, but they're all working towards agriculture now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a question in the Q&A as well. Could you please share some of the companies offering jobs in agriculture in Ottawa? Nick just went over some awesome tips about LinkedIn. I would recommend going there. You can really generalize the search engine there, and yeah, you'll be able to find some
Yeah.
opportunities. Also, job fairs, exactly what you said before. I know the Ottawa job fair is actually happening over the next couple days. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, just going and networking and just meeting more people and just, really seeing what's out there and
Yeah, and
building out that
volunteering
resume.
opportunities. Yeah, volunteering opportunities, like, yeah, might look, I understand looking for a paid position is important, but um, even if you can spare some time doing those volunteering opportunities, that could also open doors to full-time employment. I don't know, Mandeep, off the top of my head, any companies in agriculture specifically that are hiring, although uh, talking to a place like Invest Ottawa, although they're not super agriculture, reaching out to places like OMAFRA, so that's the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. Yeah, Megan brought up job fairs and LinkedIn. Like you can be very specific in your searches in LinkedIn, and there's also opportunities of to work for agricultural companies that are remote as well. So they might be based anywhere in Canada, but you'd be able to work with them here in Ottawa.
Outcome Campus Connect also has some job postings as well. I found this job on a university job board. There's so many resources out there, and yeah, so I hope that helps. All right, so I'll give everyone a second if you have any more questions, and yeah. Right. All right, well, I will end it there then. Nick, again, thank you so much. That was really informative and great presentation, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Megan. And if anyone else has any questions, you can find my name. It's Nick Halverson. You can send me a message on LinkedIn or a connection request. One more question here from you, Bo. I wanted to work as a volunteer. How can I do that? I want to have an opportunity in the future. There's definitely volunteer boards. I know like one that I can think of. It's a little bit, I don't know if competitive is the right word, but it's pretty popular is the Ottawa Food Bank. They have a farm, and this would be the time of year that they're probably looking to recruit volunteers. So if you want to get your hands dirty and work outside, I've done it a few times and it's really fun. If you don't mind getting dirty and getting sweaty and get out there in the fields for an afternoon here and there. That's one thing I can say off the top of my head, Yubo, but there's definitely volunteer boards that you can find online. Again, I don't know exactly what that resource would be off the top of my head.
That's awesome. Great.